Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Telling Tales in 2022. That's not an easy sentence to say a lot of times fast, but I never will, and neither will you. So who cares? Who cares? We hope the festive season found you well and that you are raring for a return to all the wonderment and horror of our actual play streams. Tonight, of course, is Symbaroum, as it is on usually every Wednesday. We try and make most Wednesdays. But yeah, let's get that's good old promo out of the way for the first time in 2022 before we start bringing on the players. So yeah, we have a bunch of links down below. We've got links to YouTube and to Twitch. You're watching on one, please check out the other. We've got links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon, all those good things. Please check them out. If it's something that will interest you, then we're sure we have, many delights to offer you in all those different places. We run 3 weekly streams usually, although our Monday evening stream wasn't on this week, but it will be starting up again next Monday, and that's Johnny's Night. The Monday crew is Shadows of Esterin. Wednesday is, of course, Symbaroum. And Thursdays is Cincinnati Chronicles, our anthology series of the old World of Darkness stuff. Currently about halfway through our Werewolf the Apocalypse arc. All of those start at 8 o'clock p.m. GMT. We also run monthly one-shot streams on the first weekend of every month. The first one this year is this Saturday. The Saturday on the 8th, we'll be playing Cyberpunk 2020. Yes, we picked the original version. Well, Sam picked the original version. He's running it. I don't know why. You'll have to ask him. I will, of course, however, be playing in it, as will John and Steve and Jack, I think is the crew for this one. So please join us this Saturday at 3 o'clock p.m. GMT for all your Cyberpunk 2020 desires to come true, as long as they're specifically around watching us play. Otherwise, you'll probably be disappointed. Yeah, there we go. That's enough shilling of the stuff for today. Let's start bringing on those players and let's start talking about what happened in our last session of 2021. And we're going to start by bringing on someone who wasn't in that last session. Let's start by bringing on Sam, who plays Askarai, our resident changeling archer. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hello, I'm pretty good. I'm very excited to be back playing Symbaroum. I've definitely missed it while we've been away. And I have very good new art for Askarai, thanks to John.
Absolutely do. Courtesy of John, our resident artist, or our resident character artist, anyway. Yeah, look at that. Look at Askarai with he's got his cloak and his mask and everything.
And his bow, his arrows. He's ready to one-shot some bosses.
His constant gloomy grey backdrop that he takes with him everywhere he goes and sets up. He's got everything.
In the mood for shooting.
Yeah. What are you hoping from Symbaroum in 2022, Sam?
I'm hoping to discover what is going on for a start. Maybe, please, Matt.
Seems unlikely.
I'm also hoping my character doesn't become too broken when I get about 5 more XP, but we'll see about
Again,
that.
Does not seem likely. Yeah. Well, there we go. In that case, let's bring on our first recap player. He said, I haven't written it down the order for once, so I'm just going to see if I can actually remember it. I think we're starting with... No. Stephen? No. Are we starting? No, we're starting with Mike. No? Are we starting with Mike? There we go. Hey, second time's the charm, Mike. That's what they say.
Very impressive stuff.
Mike starts with Anton. It doesn't start with Anton. Mike plays Anton. It's all going wrong. Mike plays Anton Theurg of Prios, holy man and roller of many 20s. And if you're a D&D player, 20s in Symbaroum is bad. So, hi, Mike. Why don't you, before you give us a recap, why don't you tell us what you want from Symbaroum for 2022? It should be noted, by the way, I didn't tell him I was going to do this.
Just hope that everyone has a lovely time. But I did hope for that in 2021 as well, and look where that got us.
Yeah, that didn't fucking work, did it?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to finding out a little bit more about what's going on. As a player, I'm looking forward to getting back into Davokar at some point, maybe. Obviously, Anton, not looking forward to that. Anton doesn't even know that's on the cards. There we go.
I should note before we go into that recap as well. Oh, it's going to be a late one tonight, folks. I can tell it. We've just hit one of these hype trains I've heard so much about on the Twitch. And it looks like it's because Chris has been very generous and gifted a bunch of tier 1 subs out to people. So thank you so much, Chris, aka Jellyfriend, and well done and on your random allocation to Mr. Christopher, Warmistus, Jacksec, Electro Druid, and Daff30. Yeah, what a guy! What a guy he is! Amazing. But from an amazing guy to just a pretty regular one, Mike. Why don't you give us the start of the recap for the last session?
Well, we were in the pub, of course, but we were in the pub for a reason. I think that was to discuss how we were going to approach going to this place out of town with Captain Marvello. And we were kind of going to discuss about what we were going to tell him about what we've been up to, because he wanted to know. And in the midst of all that discussion, we found ourselves poisoned from the non-buffet food at the Witch and Familiar. A stew that we'd all partaken in appeared to be poisoned. And there was some pretty violent illness going on, particularly from Arendar. And a few of us, other people were affected by it as well. But we all ended up okay in the end, thanks to some good rolls. I don't even know if that was how it happened. I suspect I didn't roll that well, but some people might have made some good rolls. No
one rolled unluckily enough to get like to have to take a death roll or anything like that. But yeah, some good medicus and some lucky resistance rolls against the poison, and some NPCs managed to die on a different table, because it does seem that the assassin just didn't give any shits and just poisoned the entire supply of food for the establishment. And then I think you all decided to try and do something about this, and that's why we're going to bring on Stephen, who will give us the update on this one. I am right this time. Stephen plays Elindra, former novice Templar turned sellsword. Hi, Stephen. What are you hoping for Symbaroum for 2022?
Well, Mike already somewhat stole my thunder on that one. I was sat here thinking I've got a good answer, which is that I've heard quite a lot about this lovely forest of Davokar. I've heard there's some sweet loot in there. Maybe at some point in the year, go and have a little wander around.
I couldn't possibly say whether in the system of Symbaroum you'll be going to the former lands of Symbaroum, but
it's not like entirely baked into the format of the setting or anything.
Nah. Probably won't even see a tree. No, absolutely. So yeah, walk us through the post-poison events, Stephen.
Well, so I think, as the mopping up began, we tried to see if we could get a handle on who might have been responsible. So we went and spoke to Alamar, yes, the innkeeper, who said that today, as in with any other day, he had this food cooking for hours in the kitchen, and he'd been in and out and not paying a huge amount of attention to it. The back door of the kitchen had been open into an alleyway, so basically anybody could have come in. We explored the alleyway, and as I recall, found nothing of particular note. We ran a bowl of soup over to the Ordo Magica to see if they could identify the poison. They came back the next day and said that it was, I believe, nightshade. Lots and lots of nightshade,
or a derivative of such.
Yeah, so like a freely, easily available plant that didn't point towards any particular kind of specialist.
No.
So that is about as far as those investigations went. I think at Irfan's advice, we retired to the agency that night, thinking that probably Alamar would want to clean up and probably might not want us around as customers for a little while, given that
Maybe
our
not.
presence there ended with 6 people dying.
Yeah, with the heat around the corner, maybe not so much. But nevertheless, we carried on because we had appointments to be at and talk about one of those. It's the sub giver himself. You know him and love him as Steo. It's Chris. It's Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Steo, of course, former infantryman, now turned sellsword and adventurer. Chris, what is your 2022 wish for Symbaroum?
I just really like to not be sad all the time
in this story anymore.
Well, technically, it's both. That's why I can role play so realistically.
Sure.
The overlapping motivations of just not being sad all the time.
Yeah.
So
what you're really looking for is for Symbaroum to become a kind of light-hearted.
I'll do it. I still think we need a point redeem where we just accidentally start playing Wonderhome halfway through a session if someone drops like 100,000 channel points or something.
Sure.
I'm up for that. No one else is. That's fine. Anyway, we had a standing request/offer from Captain Marvello to assist with some issues. Was it the Red Eye, the Cult of the Red Eye?
They are indeed called the Red Eye, yeah.
Who are out in Blackmoor and causing trouble. And they have crossed our paths a few times before. They were mentioned to us by an elf, which kind of takes pretty high priority for Steo. And they were spotted mucking around near Jacket's Heart. And just like little moments, little kind of bits and pieces where they've crossed our paths before. So we had interest in taking part in this. So we went to Marvello and had a chat with him. And part of this, it was kind of a covenant, a two-way exchange, because Marvello kind of partially wanted to grill us / interview us a bit about why we've ended up in the middle of all of these attacks / events / occurrences over the last couple of weeks. We didn't want to break the fourth wall, so we went in and gave him it was an interesting situation because we had to play off the fact that we didn't want to tell him some key pieces of information, but we didn't want him to be too suspicious. And I think that worked out because we eventually kind of made it clear to him that aspects of what we are doing are pretty close to the purview of the church, and we can't really go into those details. And I think that took away some of the heat, if that's the right word.
You kind of hinted heavily at the internal politics, and all of a sudden his driving need to know everything and have everyone named went away a bit.
Yeah, so that's kind of served because the important that was the distraction play to avoid mentioning the Iron Ring, the anti-meddling league existing in Davokar that we are kind of not entirely not aligned with, but definitely sort of working toward the same goal as.
Yeah, you certainly seem to have been on their side on more than one occasion over the last. Over the previous parts of the campaign. So
the key point is we managed to avoid even mentioning elves and only really insinuated their presence, despite the fact that we're pretty much ankle deep in them at this stage. And then we basically just went through the potential tactics of how we're going to go about roughing up the Red Eye at Blackmoor, which is kind of they're airdropping us in this kind of double execution method, because we know they have a mark out for us, but we're just going to go and walk in there and try and figure out what's going on. And then about 6 to 8 hours later, Marvello's going to roll in with about 20 guards and flatten the whole place on the hope that we have marked, ideally, Red Eye himself. If
you can kind of direct him and his forces there, and you will join him in this cult quashing effort.
The only other thing of interest to me when I was rewatching this in a fit of insomnia last night was that Marvello mentioned that there is something in the Red Eye camp that is enthralling them or has their attention. So we might be dealing with some like grade 3 Symbaric nonsense. So I'm looking forward to hitting it with a spear.
That'd be good. That'd be good. Well, then, let's wrap up this recap of the last session with a final little scene from our final player. It's John, artist o' characters. Yeah, John, what do you want from Symbaroum this year?
For Symbaroum, I want Chris to realize that Steel can just peacefully retire. He can just buy a farm with all of his adventuring money and then go and or a pub. I think Steel might like to own a pub. And
he's got
drink
the
all the
lust on him.
profits.
That'll never go away.
And it'll be fine. And he doesn't need to die horrifically.
The quest giver who promised us all properties in exchange for an unspecified quest fell down an enormous sinkhole, though. So
yeah,
there's gonna be other random
that isn't a
gifters of
property ownership.
And therefore, by sympathetic magic, any property that Steo now buys will collapse into a sinkhole. John plays Aaron Dar, last scion of the House of Dar, somewhat charmingly naive, former nobleman and duelist turned fortune hunter and adventurer. John, there was one last appointment of 2021 that you had to attend. Why don't you tell us about it?
Basically, if you've been following, we've had a bit of a falling out with Serix Atio, and our last appointment was maybe a reconciliation, mostly just a talk between me and Serix, where he basically said that following the recent cult activities in the Adventurers Guild, the agency is not exactly closing ranks, but is going to want to make sure that everyone is as on the level as they would expect a member of the Adventurers Agency to be. And offered that if we really wanted to stick our noses in whatever his friend Cargois Lamus is involved in, then he can arrange a parlay in 3 days at Cargois' house, which he could get us into, but couldn't necessarily promise wouldn't end in violence, which Aaron was completely fine with and happy with, and got the slight sense that Serix was worried about his friend, not necessarily from us.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. I think it kind of ended with him, with the implication that if people with very important names are involved in any of this in any way, you would be better served by leaving Thistlehold and never looking back. So that was an upbeat end to the year. But would you expect anything less from Symbaroum? So we're going to pick up not exactly where we left off, but not too far from it either. I'm not too bothered by putting any time in between you arriving at the which gate of Thistlehold will we make it? Probably, it has to be said, the southern gate. There is no eastern gate, so yeah. Oh yes, there is. I'm talking nonsense. I don't know which is the best one to go to Blackmoor. You know what? We'll take the eastern gate. I think that makes sense. Yeah, you turn up at the eastern gate of Thistlehold, presumably having taken your rest that evening in the agency, and there are indeed 5 horses waiting for you, being held by members of the town guard, who are, mostly yawning or maybe gnawing on a potato or some other easily carryable snack. and they seem generally disinterested in your presence and not curious about it at all, and just kind of wave on through whenever you want to leave. They do in fact crack open the gate for you because it's not open yet at this time.
No, none of the usual guardsmen. Dirac is there by any chance? I don't suppose.
No, nothing like that.
Probably for the
Perhaps
best.
Marvello didn't want to attract too much attention to it. Stephen's asked a question in chat. Did Marvello tell us how we were supposed to contact him once we found the Red Eye's location? I believe he said, like, you can't send for him. He will just turn up, you know, in the early or mid-afternoon. And I believe he said, and at the time, I might not have had the actual name of the location, but there is, I basically said there is a square at the center of Blackmoor. It's called the Black Square, and he will just arrive there. So,
Okay, so
be there roughly early mid-afternoon.
So we've got to find the Red Eye this morning, and then be at the square in the afternoon to tell him where the Red Eye are,
or at least as close as you can get. He seemed to like, you know, he was realistic. He didn't seem to, you know, you might not be able to give him an exact location, but
sure,
you know, with a big enough force, you can probably maraud through Blackmoor enough to find them. So. Is anyone making any particular preparations for this journey?
Is everyone fully healed?
That's a good point.
No.
Well, you will have healed one overnight. And also, someone is making exciting rubbing noises over there, Mike.
I think I'm still missing 1 point of healing, but possibly not worth actually healing that. In case I need more.
But like I say, yeah, you'll heal 1 point of toughness overnight, so that will be what happens.
I am still quite rough and would probably check with Father Anton just to. He's the priest. Obviously, you go to the priest for the healing.
Hey, and it's the first dice roll of 2022, and you know I've got that living Steo trait of, you know, the first roll of the year.
First roll of the year. If you roll a failure, every other roll that year will be a failure. Yeah,
it's absolutely. A 1. It's going to be a great year, guys.
Hey.
Oh my God, luck has turned. The pandemic is finished. Everything will be happy forever, folks. Climate change will somehow wrap around the other side and sort itself.
And the next 19 years, statistically, are going to be terrible.
Fine. It's fine. Wonderful. Well, that was a good Medicus roll. Now let's see how well we do for the points of toughness recovered.
Oof.
Yeah.
See if you can make it a double 1.
That's all right. That's
definitely
respectable.
Technically a double 1.
I mean, if this Medicus rolls, you know, going around, I think Elindra's still feeling somewhat worse for wear as well.
Sure. Why don't we have Father Anton kind of blessing and checking you over at the gate before you mount these slightly not cheap, but you know, rough and ready looking horses.
Expendable.
Is this just because we want to provoke Mike to make another roll?
Well, I've made it, and this time I heal 4.
Ooh, thank you very much.
Don't like this.
Everything's coming up, Anton.
So not like
unstoppable with Anton actually rolling well. We got a new party member.
Oh, I'm gonna have to rebalance everything. So
Aaron would have actually probably woken up early in order to do quite a large amount of preparation before he would meet you at the gate. And when he arrives at the gate, he is laden down with several. I tried to figure out like an actual economy, but I missed the chance to look up how much food costs in Symbaroum. But he's laying down with many bags, which he is now trying to strap to his poor horse.
Are you going on holiday after this, Aaron?
No, I thought we could take things for the camp.
What do you mean?
Food's usually hard to come by, so you know, we've had good fortune recently. I thought maybe sharing it around.
You are going to be a very popular man in Blackmoor.
Well, that's nice of you to say, but that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I
It's going to be fine.
appreciate your sense of charity, Aaron. I think what Theo's trying to express is this maybe going to interfere with us being subtle and surreptitious this morning? Are we going to draw attention to ourselves?
Look, we can thrash it out on the road. We're on the clock here.
Let's go.
Sure. You mount those rough and ready horses and set off. Grey light barely touching the horizon as you leave the eastern gate of Thistlehold. One travelled a fair amount as people move along the perimeter of the forest, but certainly not as frequently as the southern road. And before long, the light comes up and you start to see the occasional traveller coming the other way. In fact, you see a great many people on foot who are trudging, presumably from Blackmoor itself. Blackmoor, of course, is home to many refugees and those with no other place to go, but also home to many workers in Thistlehold whose employers do not pay for them to be able to stay within the walls of Thistlehold. And it is those who are coming past you kind of eyeing your steeds with a certain amount of jealousy as they trudge to their work for the day. Can everyone please give me a vigilant roll? And that will be at a +5.
I rolled a 1.
Is everyone going to roll? Roll it.
Everyone except Tam.
Oh, the world is back to normal. Oh, okay.
I enjoyed that while it lasted.
It was good. The glory days. We'll one day look back on them. So everyone but Father Anton, who's perhaps praying or contemplating the divine as the sun rises over the horizon, notices, and it isn't hard, maybe about 100 yards behind you on the road are a group of individuals who seem to be following the scrubby vegetation on the side of the road and generally seem to be trying not to be seen by you. After about, I'm going to say, do you think it's fair to say you wouldn't all immediately turn and, you know, you might remain where you were for a minute or so as you're traveling onwards while they're following you? Then I think it's safe to say that after a short amount of time, one or more of you gets a fairly good glimpse at one of the individuals, and they are very notably wearing brownish yellow dyed Hessian swathed clothes with a huge splotch of crimson paint on the front of their hoods. So seems a pretty good bet they're red-eye.
Are they on foot?
They do not appear to have mounts from what you can see.
Okay.
Well, looks like they found us.
I mean, okay. What about we head south, get off the track, force them away from where a load of people can see us murder them?
Or we could try and talk to them and ask them to lead us to Red Eye.
This is a cult we're dealing with.
I think either way, the path directly to Blackmoor It probably makes less sense than a little detour.
Have we seen anyone along this path so far today?
Yeah, there's been the workers coming the other way for the most part, but yeah, and there's a fair few of them. There's a fair few people on the road. You can see them kind of walking past the red eye and kind of glancing at them and maybe skirting a little bit out of their way. They don't look alarmed at their quite outlandish dress. In fact, you know what, Askray, you've asked me that question. Why don't you give me a cunning roll?
Okay. Maybe a 10 or less. I got a 7, so I make it.
Yeah, it looks to you like these workers know who these people are. Maybe not specifically these individuals, but they are aware of the red eye enough to skirt them on the road.
Yeah.
Not with like a look of terror, but like they don't want anything of them.
Yeah.
Are there any workers anywhere sort of like near us approaching us that we could maybe talk
sure,
to?
there probably are. Let's say there's a couple of youngish looking goblins kind of like striding down the road, and maybe they're quarreling slightly over who gets to wear the gloves today.
Okay. Well, I might just give them a nod to get their attention, and just sort of maybe indicate towards where the red eye are and ask them, sorry, we're sort of new to this sort of interference on our travels. Do you know anything about those lot over there?
Why don't you give me a persuasion roll, please, Father Anton?
I make it.
One of them kind of looks at you a bit witheringly, and the other one kind of nudges them in the ribs and says, "Oh no, it's all right, Father," and kind of sketches like a bow, like you were a noble. Or he doesn't quite know how to address a priest, but he seems impressed nonetheless, and he says, "Them's red eye."
Red eye. I'm not familiar. They from these parts?
You could say that.
Dangerous?
Sometimes more to just they believe in weird things. They're all over Blackmoor Well. They're all over the garbage heap anyway.
The garbage heap? Where in Blackmoor is that? Because we're heading that way, and I could do with avoiding it.
It's not a real garbage heap, Father. It's what they call the southeastern part of the camp, where all the refugees and the workless are. There's lots of red eye there. They listen to a man called Red Eye, and they try and do his bidding. Sometimes they rough people up. Sometimes they give things out as well. They're just a bit crazy.
Yeah, they look that way. They're stalking along the side of the road like this.
The red eye have notably, obviously stopped.
Yeah,
like they are not good at not making it obvious that you're being followed.
Well, I'll give a nod of appreciation to the two goblins and let them go on their way.
I would like to give 3 shillings to the two goblins, because that's how you exchange information here. Also, 3 shilling because that can't be divided evenly by 2, and I love a bit of drama.
As kind of Father Anton kind of moves his horse away, the one who wasn't talking nudges the talkative one in the ribs and says, "Well, look what that got you." And then you kind of toss down the 3 shillings, which the talkative one scrabbles up and kind of gestures at the other one in victory, and the other one kind of goes, "Rah!" and kind of walks off in a huff in front of the one who talked to you, who's looking very pleased with his 3 shillings. Yeah. Is the plan after this to kind of remain on the road, or?
I think if we can find a good place to kind of peel off the track to somewhere kind of quieter where we can maybe accost these guys.
Sure.
Certainly that was Theo's plan, then I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Look, if we're talking, let's talk where we're not seen to be talking. If we're fighting, let's sure as hell fight where we're not seen to be fighting.
Let's overpower them. See if we can get them to talk.
Okay.
I wanted to quickly mention, I'm no Blackmoor veteran, but if you have a residence ring for Thistlehold, I'd take it off and I'd hide it.
And
Ascarai.
all of you will have a residence ring for Thistlehold.
Ascarai, I think none of us are going to be any good at stealth when we get to Blackmoor. I just wanted to ask if you would consider maybe peeling off and gathering some information once we get into the area. I know you're pretty good at making yourself look inconspicuous.
Sometimes I do my best. I suppose we'll see what information we can get and come up with some kind of plan from there.
A changeling would also draw less attention in Blackmoor than... I mean, you're not well-to-do, but you're more well-to-do than most of the Ambrians in Blackmoor. Okay, well, that sounded to me like Steo and Alindra were looking for an opportune turn-off from the road. So why don't you both give me a cunning roll?
Cunning. I need a 10. I get a 5.
And Chris? Nope. No success for Chris.
No.
A foul 18 there. But that's okay. Elindra, you spot a kind of rough footpath that seems to be partly leading off the road. It looks like no one's gone along it in at least a few weeks. There are brambles kind of starting to grow on the edges of it. Yeah, you don't know where it leads, but it certainly seems to be leading at least somewhat into a copse of trees. So
cool. I will sort of nod to the others and kind of gesture to the path and peel off and hope they follow.
Yeah. Is everyone following? Like, was this kind of notion communicated to the other three in any way, or have they just grasped the idea of it?
I think we're doing active democracy right now by splitting the party unless they follow us.
I had assumed that we were all kind of within earshot of each other when we
were
I
think you are.
But there was some umming and ahhing about it, but we are beyond that now because we're on the road.
The other three didn't agree, but they didn't not agree.
Sure.
I'd definitely follow.
Okay.
I'll join in.
I will follow, but before I get off the path, I'm going to go into one of my saddlebags and accidentally drop a bread bun because I have a theory to test.
Okay, absolutely. You kind of walk your horses a little way into this copse. There is what seems to have been quite a frequently used campsite here. Not a terribly, good one, but basically there's a place where a fire break has been built with a ring of stones, and clearly there's been a campfire there, numerous times, maybe over the last year or so. And that's about it, really. It's ringed with trees, and as I say, you're in a kind of copse of woodland. Is the intention to wait here for them to arrive, or to hide, or?
I think I might kind of. Actually, I'll suggest this in characters like, well, gentlemen, this looks like a fantastic place to make camp for some early breakfast. Ascarai, that tree there looks mighty interesting. I wonder, might there be something interesting up it? Perhaps some rare bird like a vantage pointe.
It's a little early to be climbing trees, but I'll go find somewhere to... I'll loop around, see if I can find a nice spot to see anybody who might possibly be following us to this place.
Very, very erudite of you. So I suppose we'll kind of make camp, or at least pretend to make camp.
Sure. Is anyone else involving themselves in this deception, or are Aaron, Alindra, and Anton doing other things entirely?
I think I will follow along with the ruse.
Sure.
I will sort of position myself sort of away from where the red eye might be approaching us, just in case this is an amazing double bluff by them, and there's like another
Sure.
group of them approaching us from the other direction.
Sure.
I want to hide where I've got line of sight on the bread that I dropped.
Okay.
Because I want to see if someone picks it up.
Sure. Absolutely. So we've got 2 rolls to be made here. They're both discrete rolls, and can we have that from Aaron and Askarai, please? And Aaron, I'm going to give you a Askarai. You know what? I'll give you a +2 because the sun hasn't kind of quite fully come up yet, and it's just a grey, cloudy day. Aaron, I'm going to leave it flat for you because you wanted to get into a much more specific place than Askarai, so we'll leave it flat.
I made it. I rolled a 12 and I needed a 15.
Ooh, I needed a 9 and I rolled a 12.
Okay. Aaron, you are lurking close enough to the road in some underbrush that you see a kind of another goblin kind of walking along to Thistlehold, kind of walks up and looks down at the bread bun with a kind of delighted expression, and then looks around furtively and spots you in the undergrowth over to one side and kind of looks at you a bit oddly, looks down at the bread bun, and then looks away and walks on. He's not going to be lured in by the bread bun killer today. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Askarai, you find yourself kind of near the entrance to the path off to the copse, and you see the red eye kind of approaching, and then sort of kind of pausing momentarily, kind of like looking over at the path off and sort of whispering to each other a little bit on the other side of the road. Aaron, I'm going to give you a chance, because you're on the side of the road as well. I'm going to give you a chance, now that the red eye have approached, to do another discreet roll so they do not see you.
That is appreciated. Oh, it's a pass. That is a 5.
Yeah, maybe you learned your lesson from just lurking next to the road with a bread bun. Kind of, in my head, it's on the end of a bit of string. Fishing for goblins, but you can either stay where you are or sneak back to the camp without the red eye spotting you now that they've arrived.
I'm going to stay where I am because I want to see if specifically one of them picks up the bread roll. I basically want to know if they're hungry and desperate or if they're some sort of organized thing with resources.
Sure. So you both see the red eye kind of like quite warily, but with an air of some kind of like, they have a task to do and they're going to do it, crossing over the road. And I will tell you now that you can see that there are 4 of them. There are 2 goblins and a human. And another goblin, but I'm separating this one out because this goblin is leading a pony on a piece of string, which has up until now kind of been off on the side of the road, but they are turning and definitely heading down that path towards where your companions are.
My idea would be to kind of wait until they go past us and then kind of move behind them so they can't just immediately get back to the road if they spot our camp or something.
Sure.
Like
that. I think you can do that. Notably, however, the goblin with the pony is definitely behind the others and is kind of lurking at the turn off to the road, kind of like warily watching his companions' backs. And as he does so, he notices the bread bun on the ground and kind of like bends over, picks it up and kind of rips it in 2 and munches on it a bit himself, kind of pulling his hood up to do so, and gives the other half to the pony.
Okay.
But the other 3, the 2 goblins and the human, are definitely moving down the path towards where the campsite is.
Yeah, so they're gonna find us loudly and obliviously preparing breakfast.
Sure.
I presume. Like, there's not really anywhere to be subtle.
Well, why doesn't everyone who's still at the campsite give me a vigilant roll? And you can add a +2 to it, I think. Oh, no, actually a +7 because of their discreet.
Ooh,
So, yeah.
that is an easy pass for me.
Yeah, make it.
Yeah, you're aware of them. They're about 20 feet away from the campsite. They seem to think you can't see them, but they're just kind of like lurking in the kind of woods leading up to this place. And obviously, Ascarai and Aaron, you're well aware they're there as well. They're just about in sight of their companion with the pony and in sight on the other side to the campsite. But they don't seem to be aware that you've spotted them, but they're really not terribly good at this. They don't seem to be approaching you or kind of setting up an attack in any way. They are just watching you.
Okay, so they're essentially halfway down the path between the road and the trees.
About that, yeah. Ascarai and Aaron, you are literally on the like. If you all attack them now, I'd barely bother opening up initiative, honestly. Like, because, yeah.
I guess how much ground is there to cover between where we are by the campfire and where they are halfway up the path?
About 20 feet.
20 feet.
Not,
okay,
not far at all.
And if they turn back, we know that Aaron's there as well, and Ascarai somewhere.
Yeah, they do seem to be behind them. It would take, let's say, about 2 movements to get to them. So you would have to, if you wanted to charge them, you wouldn't be attacking in the first round, but.
I will kind of sidle. I'll try and position myself whilst looking as natural as possible, setting up the campfire, but try to get as close as I can to Steo and Anton so that we can kind of talk under our breath and just be like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to go on 3?"
Frankly, yeah.
Okay, and we're trying to take prisoners, yeah.
Yeah. We don't want to cause a scene.
All right.
Okay.
3.
Well then,
2, 1.
Forget what I said. Let's have some initiative because So, which occurs to me, I didn't. I normally send John the prospective initiatives, but it's fine. You can just put in the players, and then the red eye cultists are just at what you need. You need quick and vigilant, right? They're quick 11 and vigilant 13. So probably find them about halfway up the.
Are there rules for like non-lethal fighting?
You know, I don't think there really are. What I tend to do is like, if someone gets low enough, and I'll make you do like a strong roll or something like that to kind of batter them down. I think it's fairly clear. Like, I'm happy, Ascarai and Aaron, you being aware that the others have started charging them, so you can act if you want. So Ascarai, it's first on you. What are you gonna do?
So, God, I don't know. I don't know about just killing these. Well, about just shooting these people. Feels hard to take prisoners. I guess I'll shoot. I'm gonna take one shot with my bow to start with.
Sure. You take it. Are you taking it at the group between you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, their defense is +1.
Okay.
So go for it.
I need a 16. I rolled a 2. I make it. My damage is a 10 + 1, which is a 3 + 1, 4.
Okay. Your arrow kind of strikes home. The human's the bigger target. Let's say you went for him. Your arrow strikes home in the kind of the back of the arm of the cultist, and he gives out a kind of wrenching howl and kind of staggers forwards, kind of like desperately patting, as if he's been like stung by an insect or something, you know, at the back of his arm. And the others all kind of look around and look behind, and generally look very. You can't see their faces, but their body language is quite panicked. But they do give out a kind of howl of anger and kind of. I'd say that the ones halfway are kind of charging, or appear to be starting to kind of charge forwards towards the others at the campsite who are coming. So they are ready to fight. Yeah. And Elindra.
Well, seeing that, I might take another shot.
Movement action. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
I think I might take another shot, seeing that they're
actually
up for a fight.
Yeah.
I'll give it a go. So again, I need a 16. I rolled a 3, so I make it. And the damage is an 8 + 1, 9.
So that's the same target, right? I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yep. The human tumbles to the woodland floor with one of your arrows just transfixed to the center of his back. He kind of like crawls a little further and then goes still among a drift of leaves. Elindra. Like I say, it's going to take 2 movement actions to kind of charge into them. So
yes, I will spend my 2 movement actions charging into them. And now here's a question: with 2-handed finesse, there's a free attack upon engaging an enemy that doesn't have a long weapon. So when does that occur?
Ooh. You know what? Yeah, I think you engage them at this point. So yeah, I think so. So there's 2 goblins who are still moving forwards, and you know what? I'd say if you're the first to charge in, they're probably both going to engage. Like you can engage one of them, but then they're going to get a turn before Steo and Anton. So I guess, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Sure, it's whichever one's closest, and I will have the sword out, but I think the thinking is to kind of try and beat them with the handle end. Really,
okay.
I'm trying to use like force of momentum to kind of knock.
Right, you're not cutting. You're just battering at them. Okay, well we'll think about what that means damage wise, but go ahead and make an attack at +1.
Okie dokie. I need a 16. I get a 1. Oh dear.
That'll do it. You know what?
Actually,
I'm gonna call an audible here, and I'm gonna say for that 1, rather because it's the the critical hit or whatever. You can just plant one of these goblins between the eyes with the pommel of your sword and just knock them, just spark out.
Fantastic. That is exactly what I was hoping for.
Yeah, absolutely. They are not fearsome opponents, as you probably already picked up. It's worth noting as they charge you, you notice they are drawing no weapons.
Okay. They're coming at me with fists, essentially. Yep. Cool. Yeah, if I can knock one of them out, that's great.
Yep, you absolutely do so, and they end up sprawling on the woodland floor. Aaron, what are you doing?
I am going to I'm going to move towards the goblin with the pony, and like put my hand on. I'm assuming the pony doesn't have a bridle; it's not that kitted out. But like, put my hand on the string so that the goblin can't mount and ride away. And I say to the goblin, please don't fight or run. We won't hurt you if you don't fight.
Okay. You do that. You know what? Give me a persuasive roll at a difficulty of -7.
Ooh, okay. That's
One
fair.
of them does have an arrow in their back at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Wasn't my choice, but rolled a 7. That's not enough. Or that's too much. That is a fail.
So as for what the Red Eye themselves are doing, one of them is the remaining one kind of charging at the group is going to charge at Elindra and try to batter into her with his tiny fists. So could you give me a defense, just a flat defense roll, please?
Yeah, okay, so we need a 13, and we're going to get a 13.
Okay, yeah, you sidestep. This is not, as I say, a fearsome opponent. They seem to be quite enraged, though, as they swing at you with their hands. And Aaron, you the goblin is going to attempt to first what he's going to attempt is to push you away from the pony. So that's
Okay.
just a versus strong roll. So can you give me a strong roll at +1, please?
Yes. Oh, I rolled a 20.
Okay. I'm gonna judge that as kind of the goblin is still for a moment, kind of frozen as you're talking to him, and maybe you think you're getting through to him, which is why he finds it so easy to absolutely hoof you in the plums. This goblin with one small and it feels sharp foot absolutely leathers you below the belt, and you just kind of drop back, howling and clutching at a very sensitive area. And the red-eye cultist scrambles up onto the pony and starts. I mean, it's not a fast beast, but is cantering away at what passes for top speed on this pony to the east towards Blackmoor. And that's all the red eye actions, because there's only 2 of them left already. Steo, what are you doing?
I think, given they're not fighting with blades, I'm just gonna go and have a good old fashioned brawl if I can engage any of them this turn.
Sure. Yeah, you can run up to the one fighting Alindra. Are you going to just use like your spear like a quarterstaff, or are you just going to like put it aside and just try and thump them?
Yeah, with mailed fist, I will try and just give them a solid thump.
A solid thump. Yeah, absolutely, go for it. So it's an attack at +1.
And we're still rolling accurate and not strong for this.
Correct, yeah. You're not like wrestling with them, you're just battering them.
Ooh, a 5.
There we go. I believe unarmed is a D4.
Sure.
I think so, yeah.
I get a 2 on that.
Okay. Yeah, they're obviously, that's not past their pain threshold or anything, but you give them a good crack, kind of, and it misses their head, but you give them a good crack on the shoulder, and they kind of reel around and like just desperately swiping for you in return, but not really doing all that much. Anton.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, I think Steo should have had to make 2 movement rolls there, but 2 movement actions rather, but oh well.
Are we just proceeding?
Yeah, it's what,
okay.
What? Yeah,
I'm not going to use my flail or anything, but like if there's a goblin nearby or trying to attack me, I will, wade in there and get a bit wrestly. But otherwise, I'm not.
Do you want to try and just restrain him? Because you could make an opposed strength roll and just try and
Yeah, I'm not very strong, but that's what I want to do.
He's not very strong either. So just make me a strong roll at +1, please.
No, 19.
That is not it. Never try and pin down a frantic goblin.
Is he greased up? Did you mention that earlier?
He's not greased, but that kind of those Hessian rags he was wearing just slip around his body, and trying to wrestle a badger in a sack, or more accurately, a goblin in a sack. No. I'm not sure we need to prolong this any further, because I would like to. Basically, what I want to know is, how are the 3 people there dealing with this still kind of manic flailing goblin? Are you just all going to try and wail into him until he drops? Or are you kind of going down the Anton route of just trying to restrain the little bastard?
Yeah, I was going to try and pick him up and see if I could kind of like hang the back of his rags on a tree branch.
Oh my God.
Sure. Well, let's see how you do with that. Let's make let's give you a strong roll at +1 to see if you can get the better of him in in general first.
Yes, I can.
Yes. And then why don't you just give me a flat strong roll to see if you can basically do what you're trying to do?
Yep, that's another.
Yep. These like yellow dyed sort of sack like rags around his body are, they're barely a substitute for proper clothing, and you manage to hoist him up and kind of, it's not quite comedy hanging him off a tree branch, but like basically you just slip. There's a sapling in front of you, and you can just kind of tangle all his clothing over that. So he's just kind of restrained against this flailing, trying to untie like a knot of hessian around his neck to get off. But he's pretty much in place. The one on the forest floor is like slowly coming to. And Aaron, you can get to clamber to your feet again, clutching at yourself, but the pony is barely visible down the road now to the east. It's quite possible you might be able to catch it on the horse, but it's up to you what you do with that. It ain't going to be you, though, I'll say that.
No, it's not.
You're probably walking to Blackmoor now.
Would I have had any chance to take a shot at the one riding off?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah.
I would do that rather than let him ride to Blackmoor.
Sure. Why don't you? I'd say you'll get probably 2 rounds worth of firing before he's out of range. So this is a doomed goblin, I think. Why don't you give me just give me 1 round at first, and we'll see if you pass his pain threshold. So they're +1, they're +1 shots.
Okay. I rolled a 6, so that does hit, and the damage is a 5.
Damage is a 5. That is not past his pain threshold. Why don't you give me another shot?
I don't really want to. I was hoping to just get over his pain threshold and knock him prone, but now I'm going to shoot again rather than let him lead.
Sure.
What's the horse's pain threshold?
I could shoot the horse. The horse is even more innocent than this.
The horse is even more innocent than the goblin who gave half of the only food he has had today to his horse.
Look, what has the horse done? The goblin is a cult member. The horse is just a horse. It hasn't done anything wrong.
We don't know that. Maybe the horse is the leader of the cult.
Just kill the fucking goblin.
I'm sure
that could be horse Stalin for all you know.
I rolled a 14. So was it? I think that hits even +1 or -1.
It's a +1, so yeah, it'll definitely hit for you.
And the damage is a 9.
Yeah. The first arrow kind of caused the goblin riding the pony to kind of double over as it impacted into his side and keep on riding. The next one, you were trying to maybe clip his leg or something, but it was off. You basically shot an arrow directly into the back of his head, and he just tumbles off and crashes into the mud of the road, probably dead before he hits the ground. The pony slowly kind of canters to a stop, and after nudging at the body a short amount of time to see the state of the rider, it turns away and starts chewing on some grass at the side of the road.
I would like to head over there and try and get both the pony and the body off the road.
You absolutely can do that. You can pick up the goblin isn't particularly heavy. You can pick up the body and sling it across the pony. You are drawing some looks, obviously, from people, but very, very reluctant and kind of looks that seem to be trying not to get any of your attention.
Before I go onto the road to get this body, I would like to try and shapeshift to just look like a random human being.
Sure, absolutely. Do you have to do a roll for that?
I do. I need to roll Resolute, which is 11. I might fail, but it's worth a shot. I rolled a 14, so I fail.
Okay. Unfortunately, you are recognized. Well, you're still wearing a mask. But yeah, you kind of bring the goblin on the pony back. And yeah, there are kind of goblins, humans, a couple of ogres like within sight as you're doing this, but all of them are kind of watching without looking like they're watching. They don't seem horrified or alarmed.
Okay.
They just seem to not want any of this.
I will just take the both back to the camp.
Absolutely, and back in that camp, as I say, the goblin on the floor is like slowly coming to. The other one, kind of bound to the sapling, is hissing and spitting at you and desperately trying to flail at you with its fists. But presumably, you are now stepped out of range of it.
Out of range of the sapling goblin and with a foot on the chest of the concussed goblin.
Sure. Sam, I'm happy for you to lead the pony and the other dead goblin back into the clearing at this point.
Okay.
I might offer the two prisoners a bit of some bread if they're coming to.
The one coming to is still too bleary. The other one is very much not receptive to your offer. He seems to be kind of, because the position he's in is kind of pulling on his neck a little bit, not enough to strangle him, but certainly enough to kind of restrain his breathing a little bit. And he seems to be gasping something over and over under his breath, and just desperately trying to get at you in a violent fashion.
Can we listen into what he's saying?
You absolutely can. Why don't you give me a vigilant roll at, let's say, a -2.
I can fail that roll for you, sure.
Sure. Anyone else? Yeah, probably Steele or Anton can also make that roll before the others kind of fully emerge into the clearing.
Yeah, I'll take that. It's going to have to be a low ball for me. Oh, he does it. 987, yeah, 6.
Nice.
This one from Anton. Steo, you think you can make out that the goblin is saying the word Ragama over and over again. You have no clue what Ragama is or means or whatever.
Well, that went pretty well.
Who would like to interrogate the prisoners?
I don't think there's going to be much interrogation from your tree friend over there. This one might come round, though.
To sort of look down expectantly.
I think it's fair for Askari and Aaron. You are now you can now be part of this as much as you want.
How are you doing, Aaron? You looked fairly painful from where I was.
I'm fine.
What happened?
It's fine.
What happened? I had my back turned. Are you okay?
It just took me by surprise. It's fine. I lean against a tree in a sort of slightly uncomfortable upright position.
Not in the royal giblets, no. Oh God.
That'll teach me not to wear all my armor.
I would
I
offer
suppose
some
there's no
medical
saving him,
attention, but-
Anton.
It's fine. It's fine. It'll pass. It's fine.
I'd like to see the one who's coming round. Would he be in the mood for some water? The goblin. Is that something I could convince him to take?
Maybe. Do you want, like, if you knelt down next to the goblin and remove their hood, maybe you could get more of an impression.
Yeah, try and sit them up and maybe beckon Anton across, just to kind of help, kind of maybe stabilize the gentleman a bit. Gentle goblin.
Well, yeah, if you remove the goblin's hood and they're kind of blearily, kind of their eyes flickering, you do see that under the hood with the red, kind of like the red eye marked on it, on the flesh of their face, they have had a red eye tattooed, or more specifically, just a large, rough, red, blobbish circle tattooed over the front of their face with what looks like very you know, very crude tattooing technique. Why don't you give me, Steo, if you're trying to give this goblin some water, why don't you give me a persuasive roll at -6, please?
We need a 1. We get a 7. It looks like a 1. Can I interest you in some numbers that look like other numbers?
Not for the purposes of this, but otherwise always, yes. So the goblin kind of like blinks and almost starts to take a sip, and then kind of comes more to herself and kind of looks around at you all and looks down at kind of Alindra's kind of armored foot on her chest, and just starts battering against it furiously with her fists. She looks up at the other goblin struggling on the sapling, and kind of, as if taking a cue, as she's battering away at Alindra's foot, just starts going, "Rakama, Rakama!"
I will make my way over to where I have my spear stowed and make my way back over the course of the next 2 or 3 minutes of conversation.
The conversation is exactly as I have laid out. They do not seem amenable to talking.
While Steo is taking his time, can I search probably first the mount that they had, and then the bodies to see if they had?
You can absolutely search the mount very easily because it's just a horse, like a small horse with nothing in terms of saddlebags or anything. There's no saddle on it. There's no bridle or anything. In terms of the red-eye cultists, as I say, there's that obviously that yellowish and red dyed Hessian. A quick pat down reveals that they are carrying nothing. Nothing. No equipment, no food, no coin, nothing.
There's nothing on the bodies. Doesn't seem like they're giving us much information other than Ragama.
Father Anton, I don't suppose you speak Goblin, do you?
You can make a lawmaster roll.
Okay.
It's. I'm telling you right now, it's not a term you recognise, but you can make a lawmaster roll to maybe find out some information about the word.
Assuming that there's no modifiers on that, I do make it.
Ragama does not sound like a goblin word.
Okay. Okay. Doesn't sound like their language to me. But
There's not enough K's going on.
I will look down at the goblin that's kind of battering at my feet and just say, "Do you speak Ambrian?"
She's not responding. She may well do, but they're clearly in the grip of some kind of like fanatical fervor here.
I will ask, "Would you like to speak Ambrian?"
You're not getting any response.
I will plunge my sword through the goblin's throat. I will turn to the goblin and the sapling and say, "Would you like to speak Ambrian?"
He does not seem to notice what you've done.
Right.
Yeah. Cruel though it may seem, I don't see any reason.
I thought that might work. Anyone have any other ideas?
This has gone poorly for everyone. I don't think we're getting anything out of them.
Alas, I think you're right. I will spear the last goblin and put it out of its misery as well.
Christ. Okay. We've moved on to executing prisoners super quickly here.
They were cultists. They've tried to kill us a lot.
I'm going to do it in such a way that if anyone wants to shout no, they can try and stop me. But Steo has lost any reason to allow these people to get back to camp and alert the others that were coming.
I shout no if you're giving the opportunity.
I don't think Alindra gave any opportunity.
No,
No.
If Steo went and picked up his spear, then that sounds like an opportunity. Yes.
I gave no warning before killing the first goblin. I would have paused before doing anything to the second one.
I will, if Steo is taking his time, I will vocally object. These individuals are either broken or not working under their own influence. You can't just, and they're prisoners. You can't just execute prisoners.
You were born in the north, weren't you?
No. I crossed the Titans. I lost things in the south. I understand, but this isn't war. And these aren't monsters. These are hungry rabble from a refugee camp.
Got a better idea? You're going to let him go back to its master and bring the rest of their attention on us when we walk into town today. I'm open for suggestions. We've also got a job to do.
Put him on the pony. Pay one of the passing workers to escort them to the guard. Hand them into Marvello. Let him deal with them. If he can get anything better out of him, then that's fine. But you're not an executioner.
A great idea.
If we can find somebody heading back towards Thistlehold who seems trustworthy enough, or who we can pay to be trustworthy enough, I don't have any objections to that.
Well, they get a free pony into the bargain, so I assume we'll have no shortage of willing volunteers.
I just don't want any of them going to Blackmoor.
Yeah, gentlemen and ladies.
You're muted, Matt.
In case it's not apparent, I don't know how much of today's activities are going to involve diplomacy. So this may have been a horrific way to start the day, but it is going to be a bloody day.
To be honest, I'm not sure that a life like this Goblin has is that much worth living, but I agree that tying them up is, even if we leave them here and get them on the way back, it's
Do you know what kind of life this goblin has, Ascarai?
A life where he's seemingly completely brainwashed into only yelling Regama and has no regard for his own life. But I agree.
Yeah, after 5 random people attack him and kill all his friends, cult mates,
What do you think they followed us into this copse of trees to do?
Well, they didn't seem to be wanting to attack us until we turned around and attacked them. They weren't carrying weapons, so they weren't planning to stab us. Maybe they were just keeping an eye on us. And yeah, sure, maybe that was to report us back to Red Eye and have them stab us while we're in Blackmoor, but we don't know that.
I mean, I agree that we shouldn't kill them if it can be avoided.
Right, look, let's get this one on the way back to Thistlehold. We're wasting time. Oh, Ascarai, grab one of those. In fact, let's strip the robes off them. And Ascarai, would you be able to make use of one of these?
Maybe the human-sized one.
Yeah, it's got a couple of arrow holes in it, but honestly, in the generally disheveled state of it, it doesn't really make a difference.
I will take it.
So, yeah, you return to the road. Finding someone willing to take someone to Thistlehold in exchange for a pony is not a difficult job at all. And again, you find a couple of, maybe a small group of 3 goblins or so who very quickly agree to do this task with the kind of stripped down goblin tied to the pony. They agree to take this individual to the east gate of Thistlehold and to hand him over to the guard in exchange for being able to keep the pony, which they've already started arguing about who should get the pony today. should have like dibs on today's pony before they as they retreat off to the west.
Before it goes, I give the pony a sugar cube from one of the bags.
Oh my god. I hate being the baddie. Right, I suppose we get back on the road then.
Yeah, the Blackmoor.
Okay. Yeah, you lead your horses to the road and carry on going. Blackmoor's not a very long journey away from where you are. It's probably about an hour's walk or so, maybe an hour and a half's walk. And so on your horses, it's quicker than that, even despite your intermission here along the way. And as the sun starts rising properly, you can see ahead of you a great sprawl of tents, some large, some small, that comes kind of rising out of the early morning mist ahead of you. There's a great kind of hubbub ahead of a settlement the size of a town, but with no large walls to deflect the noise that comes from it, nor, it has to be said, the not inconsiderable stench of a great mass of unwashed bodies. John, do you have that image of Blackmoor, please, or at least a little snippet of Blackmoor which we could pop up?
I do. Doop, doop.
There we go. So as you start making your way through the outskirts of Blackmoor, you find yourself, and there are some of you who have been to Blackmoor before, so this is nothing particularly new for you, but you find yourself moving along a very, very muddy path that seems to be leading in the rough direction of perhaps whatever the center of Blackmoor can be considered to be. And as you're moving, you see that there are some areas where kind of caravans have been pulled up and large tents have been put up. And it almost doesn't seem like a bad place, like just like a war camp or something like that, something a bit more acceptable in terms of a place to dwell. But a great deal of them are also not terribly impressive. You get the impression that a lot of the people in this particular area of Blackmoor are fortune hunters and treasure seekers. You see a lot of people ill-equipped for Davokar, but still somewhat equipped, who seem to be, many of them kind of sitting around making plans, discussing things over maps and over lists of supplies. And you also see what seems to be a large tent camp of individuals who are all wearing very similar clothing, wearing kind of loose, almost silken clothing dipped in some kind of crimson dye, which they're wearing over kind of cheapish looking mail and scale armor. They generally, no one is going near their little tent camp, and there seem to be quite a few of them there as well. After a certain amount of time, you can see ahead of you, as you move through this vast forest of tents, you see ahead of you kind of a couple of dirt paths away, what seems to be a large, or at least large for Blackmoor structure. It is the stone wall of a relatively small but well-built keep, and there seems to be a dirt path leading round it into what looks somewhat like a more familiar little village or town square with some wooden buildings around it.
This is it then. Grafaldo's Grift.
Those of you who have been to Blackmoor before know that this is indeed the Black Square, which is basically the only town-like area within Blackmoor.
Well, while we're approaching, I'll kind of, Aaron, I am. When I weigh up your exemplary manner and your kindness to all living things, I have to put it on a scale against a baron who would deliberately run scam such as this place for the betterment of his own coffers and the suffering of, God, must be 2,000 people here now, at least.
Probably getting more every day. And things aren't getting any better for them. It's why I suppose I don't know.
You brought your drop of water for the ocean. I'll gesture to the food packs behind you.
It'll make a difference to someone.
These are the ones that the Iron Pact would have us keep out of Davokar. You got to ask yourself, what else have they got to do except throw themselves to the hands of whatever horrors lurk in there?
Are we? I take it we're kind of converging on the black square intentionally and kind of going in there and seeing what's about. So unless anyone contradicts me, I will tell you.
I think I would like to kind of look to Askarai and go, I think the garbage heap they mentioned was in the southeast. I don't know if you want to get a head start and do some sneaking.
Yeah, I'll probably dismount, hand over the reins of my horse to someone else, and at least split off from the group just in case there are cultists around here. But I would still probably head towards the square just separately from the group.
That seems perfectly reasonable. Well then, we'll stick with the main group for now. But before we do so, Askarai, can you give me a discreet roll in order to find somewhere quiet enough that you can change into, you know, this red eye gear? Or to be honest, you can probably just put it on over your existing clothes, apart from your cloak, and just swaddle yourself in these rags. Are you leaving the Hagramore cloak with your companions then?
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll give it to Aaron.
Sure.
I will fold it up carefully and put it in one of the saddlebags.
Okay, Sam, what's that discreet roll looking like?
It's a 20.
Then everything's fine. You found yourself a little gap between some tents, swathed yourself in the red eye, kind of Hessian, and as far as you're concerned, no one's the wiser.
Oh no!
Head off to the southeast.
Just
the rest
completely
of you,
pulled an Anton.
the rest of you emerge into like the area defined by the stone-walled keep and the wooden buildings known as the Black Square. Even underfoot, it's actually cobbled here, and it just feels like you've stepped into a like if you were aware of such things, it feels like you've stepped into a film set in the middle of a completely different environment. There are wooden buildings kind of surrounding this square that look, like normal buildings you would encounter. There is a general store called Codamar's Huckery. There is a guest house inn called the Haymo. There is a woman who's an old crone who seems to be selling rather unpleasant smelling pies from a storefront. There is a smithy. There's a leather worker. There's a place that seems to be selling sort of kind of travel gear for the forest. It almost seems like a small square in Thistlehold itself. On one end of it is the dark stone keep of, as Chris quite rightly said, it is the like a keep of God, I had this information literally right here.
Grafaldo?
Yeah, Grafaldo. But I'm worried as to why it's not on my thing anymore. It's fine.
I thought it was...
Grafaldo is his father, the person you are thinking of. Sorry, literally I had this information here. Why can I not see it? That is very, very frustrating. Oh, I've somehow copied and pasted something. There we go. I weirdly managed to copy and paste it. Yes, Baron Grafaldo is the individual who owns Blackmoor, but it is generally run day to day by the individual known as the Bailiff of Blackmoor, who is Caroldo Erebus, who you have already met, Anadea's absentee father, and drunk and generally unpleasant fellow who you met previously in Wrath of the Warden. And you can see that the crest of House Erebus, that bird of prey diving, is kind of mounted to the front of the keep. There's a couple of guards in front of it, and they're sharing some kind of just gossip or something with some individuals dressed in the same manner as the others from the tent camp you saw earlier, with the crimson dyed silken robes over the top of their armor. As you see a couple of low-ranking initiates of the Sun Temple wander by, and the crimson-robed individuals kind of hoot at them and throw the remains of some apples and tomatoes that they've been eating, and the priests kind of like just ignore it and carry on walking. They seem to be traveling somewhere further on to the southeast, but otherwise, an oddly calm little village or town square in the middle of this expanse of tents and squalor.
Shall we see about booking a room for the night? Actually pronouncing the quotes around that. At least then we could keep the horses somewhere.
Yeah, I guess we don't. The horses have to go somewhere, right?
Yeah, you can't. If you go around Blackmoor with horses, like, you will draw a lot of attention.
So I suppose the inn is probably the best bet for that sort of thing.
It does seem to have a stable. It does have a stable, yeah.
Tether the horses. Spend a few minutes thinking about where we go from here.
Yeah, I think we start this off with a bit of a pint, as is the tradition.
Yeah. Okay. So you go into the Haymo. There aren't many people here, and most of the people seem to be off-duty guards who kind of look over at you and kind of see that you've arrived with horses and somewhat expensive-looking equipment, and just kind of look away again and go back to their drinks. The innkeeper, she greets you fairly warmly and with somewhat business-like manner. Gladly takes your money and orders your horses stabled and provides you with some breakfast and drink.
Aaron, you got the Ascarai's nice cloak, didn't you?
Yes.
Probably best not to leave it in the saddlebags around these parts.
Yes, I will take anything valuable and an amount of the food bags with me. I also, for the sake of carrying, also hand a bag each to Steo and Alindra.
Yeah, sure. I'll accept it. Beast of burden that I am.
So,
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, we're just here to identify a location, right? We think it's the garbage heap. I assume that's where Ascarai's going.
Yeah, I think that's where we should go soon as well. But I'm not going to lie, Alindra, I was very interested in the interaction between those cell swords and the initiates there. I wonder, should we go and see if we can track down more of the temple folk and see if we can get some gossip?
If any of you were present for, I can't remember who was present for the discussion with Captain Marvello. It may have been everyone. But if you were, either roll cunning or feel free to bring up any connection you may have made yourselves.
I can't remember what
he
was
says,
said. So.
Not remembering if he mentioned it. I think I did.
I passed my cunning roll.
Anyone who passes remembers that Captain Marvello made mention of a mercenary company working for the Bailiff of Blackmoor called the Blood Robes.
Yeah, that was my assumption coming in, which is why I referred to them as the sellswords. I'm just interested in the church dynamic, which kind of goes back, and I'll go back into character for this. because in hushed tones at our little table, I imagine that kind of disrespect towards the members of the church is lines up with what we learned about the fracas in the church at the minute. I just think it's worth maybe a house call to wherever they're congregating before we rotate round to the main event.
Okay, just to understand their relationship to the church.
Yeah, just find out if this is a recent thing that there's been hostility between these crimson sellswords, the sellswords and the
blood robes.
Blood robes, lovely. Yeah, have they only recently started being hostile towards the church? Is what I'd like to know.
I suppose. I've seen and heard a lot of things about the church recently, and not all of these pieces fit together and make sense.
Yeah, so more information at this stage is better than not. Aaron, you wouldn't inquire with the landlady about the where we might go to have a talk with a local priest?
Of course. I'll go find the landlady. You're on mute.
Sure. She's at the bar cleaning out a mug. It's because Mike has left us for the night. I need to take over his Mike habits.
Are you going to take over his rolling as well, or does that fall to one of us?
It's all of you, I hope.
Damn it.
Askarai's already led it, so.
That's true. Excuse me, I was wondering where is one likely to find people of Prios in Blackmoor?
What you mean? You mean the missionaries?
Yes.
Sarvola's lot.
Is that the only lot that's here?
Sun Temple don't come here.
I didn't think so.
You know, followers of Sarvola set up their kitchens down in the garbage heap, trying to feed that rabble.
You don't approve of them being here?
They're just trouble is all. The blood robes don't like them. The Baron son barely tolerates them. They're heretics, aren't they? That's what the temple says.
That's true. How do the camp denizens feel about them?
Well, I'm sure the freeloaders over there don't cry over their food handouts.
Yes.
There's no need for them with honest folk, is there? Chris's horrified reaction.
Yikes.
Well,
this is Brexit
you.
Blackmoor.
Oh, does the bar have crowns on its pint glasses?
It does now.
British humour. Don't
escapism,
worry,
escapism. Stay on target.
Don't worry.
Thank you very much for your help.
She nods and goes back to polishing the tumblers.
So the church don't come here. Sarvola's people come here. Sarvola's people are presumably in a battle for hearts and minds of the people of the garbage heap, right?
Or
against the Red Eye.
Yeah. Good call.
Who are also feeding people. And there are people within the church and possibly certainly within the church and possibly also outside the church in Thistlehold that have murderous issues with Sarvola for things which may or may not be connected to this struggle against the cults. Have I got that about right?
I think so, but immediately, Aaron, forgive me for making haste with your own property, but I think if you want to help the people of Blackmoor, then perhaps a donation to the kind people running a soup kitchen under the guise of Prios might be a great start.
That sounds like a very good start.
And that is serendipity. I think that's our next port of call, then the kitchens.
I think all roads point southeast from here.
And speaking of southeast, Askarai, let's have you. So I'm assuming that what you have done is made your way towards the garbage heap as, like, you know, quietly as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to blend in, thinking that no one has seen me change into this robe, so I'm just...
How could they have?
Yeah, exactly. I was so sneaky.
Sure.
So I'll just, you know, act as though I belong, and I would head southeast and look and listen for anyone who seems to be given, you know, culty speeches, that kind of thing.
Sure, absolutely. Well, as you emerge from kind of the area of the black square into the garbage heap, obviously, the first thing that you realize is this is... I don't think Askarai's been further south much more than Thistlehold, right? You haven't been to Indaros or anything like that.
No.
I mean, you may have been in the garbage heap before. It's perfectly possible, but whether it's your first time here or not, it is the worst slum you have ever found yourself in any way whatsoever. The amount of people who are clearly in despair and in incredibly poor shape from disease or malnutrition or just pure desperation is shocking, even to someone who, you know, is used to the not too positive and upbeat climes of Thistlehold. You find yourself surrounded mostly by goblins, changelings, and ogres, with the occasional human as well. And as you make your way through the mostly run down and tilted and disarrayed tents of this area of Blackmoor. I mean, it seems like many people here don't even have a tent to sleep under, which is surely tantamount to a death sentence. And I go so far as to say that you find yourself stepping over several bodies in the path and just kind of lying between tents as you make your way around. Can you give me, please, a vigilant roll? No, sorry, another discreet roll, please. And I will give you the modifier for it now, and it's going to be a chunky one. Yeah, it's going to be a discreet roll at -8, please.
Oof. Okay, my discreet is 13, so I need a 5.
I believe in you.
Not terrible odds.
I rolled a 2. I made it.
That's reverse XCOM. So, yeah, okay. You find yourself stepping along a rough, muddy pathway between a bunch of tents, and you can hear some voices inside. It's like a relatively large tent for this place, but with it made of incredibly thin fabric that you can't believe holds any warmth at all overnight. And you hear some kind of hissed voices inside it that are quite clear as you walk along, and you hear one of them saying, "Apparently, there's one of them walking the heap, and they're wearing some of our robes."
Okay.
Gareth saw them near the Black Square, so keep an eye out for anyone who looks like they don't belong.
Okay, I think at that point I would probably back away, try to find. I think I'd try to find another place and take the ropes off.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't you give me a just a regular discreet roll there, then, please, to see if you can manage to do that without being spotted.
Please. Okay. Need a 13. Roll the 4.
There we go. Yeah, you managed to find like a little area, which perhaps it's the actual garbage heap of the garbage heap, and kind of holding your nose against the reek and the smell. It's where people dump their rubbish rather than their waste, which wouldn't be tolerable at all. But you managed to find yourself a little kind of corner surrounded by just mounds of torn material and kind of ruined leather and ruined tools. And you managed to strip those red eye rags off yourself. Do you just kind of toss them onto the pile?
Yeah, I think so. I would also definitely make a mental note of where I heard that. Since, yeah, I know there's cultists there, and maybe I'd try and like dirty myself up a bit so I don't. Since I'm in a garbage heap.
Yeah,
and then
weirdly, taking your mask off might help.
Yeah. Okay. I'd take my mask off.
Like, it's quite a distinctive mask, and people in Thistlehold know you as the changeling who wears that mask.
Yeah.
So that might be a plus.
And no one knows what I look like without the mask. So
quite. So there we go. And you could also maybe use your shapeshifting to even not look like yourself.
Yeah, I think probably I would continue to search around the streets and occasionally shapeshift when I feel like I'm not being watched at all.
Well, why don't you just make us one shapeshift roll to see how successfully that generally works?
Okay, I need 11 for my resolute. I roll a 6.
There we go. Yeah, you manage to find yourself kind of just subtly changing your features as you wander around. Let's hop back to. Oh, and it's worth noting, by the way, you see plenty of red eye walking around.
Do I see many church people? Since I don't know I don't know about this, but do I see?
Let's give me a vigilant roll.
Okay. 15. I rolled an 11.
Yeah, you know what? You stumble on kind of a wider area of muddy path where a great many people seem to have congregated. And on one side of it are 3 or 4 kind of rickety tables with large metal tureens of soup, which a number of people in the robes of Prios are kind of cooking and handing out and kind of desperately trying to keep up with the demand of the many kind of goblins, ogres, changelings, humans who have kind of gathered near the tables and are holding their hands out for kind of shallow wooden dishes of soup. Yeah, and there are red eye here as well, although notably none of them are going to the missionaries for food. They don't appear to be like there doesn't seem to be any visible animosity. But they're definitely on their own business, whether they're walking through the area or like gathered a short distance away conversing.
Okay.
Let's go back to the other 3. And you know what? There's an opportunity here to reunite the party, I think, fairly successfully. So why don't anyone who thinks they might be trying to guide their way through the garbage heap give me a vigilant roll? And as long as one of you makes it, we'll have you be at the same place as Askarai.
That's a 20.
Oh.
That's I need 5 and I rolled 13, so that's a no.
That's a big old no then.
We're never reuniting the party.
In which case you find yourself just lost among the labyrinthine muddy paths of the garbage heap. And again, you know, the same thing to you guys as to Askarai, you know. Maybe you've been to the garbage heap before, maybe you haven't, but either way, you know, there's no way to really inure yourself against the horrible squalor of this place. How about, and that was a pretty bad failure from most of you. And you know what, Elindra, your 20 penalty here is going to be just not being able to make the roll at all. So why don't you, Steo and Aaron, give me discrete rolls at -3, please?
Nope. He did a 6 and got 15.
Ooh, lovely.
Sneaky Steo, they call me.
Sneaky Steo. Let's say for that, you're kind of walking along a particularly kind of muddy path where, you know, there's puddles underfoot and you're all squelching through it. Aaron and Alindra have like their heads down trying to like find the driest possible patches, and Steo ahead through like a more like a path that's more frequently trodden. You see a number of red eye kind of trudging along it in a group, and people seem to be kind of like staying warily clear of them, although again not with a sense of fright of them, but just kind of like, oh, you know, don't get in their way. And as they kind of cross this, you see Alindra kind of like trudging forward blindly with her head down, trying to find solid ground, and you just manage to step forward and kind of grab the back of Elindra's tabard and kind of pull her into a little side thing between two tents. And Aaron, you kind of spot this happen as well and duck in there. None of you have any idea where you are or where the missionaries are, but at least you have avoided being immediately spotted by a small red eye patrol.
Handy.
If they're a patrol, maybe they're on some other business.
Are there any information goblins or other information friends I could pay for directions?
Yeah, there's a goblin with a little like blue sign above him with an eye.
An exclamation point.
Yeah, no, that well, I mean, you can try and accost a random goblin and try and get information out of them. It's up to you. What kind of individual are you looking for?
Yeah, how many ortegs to a shilling again?
10,
It's
I think.
10
Is it
ortegs
10?
and a shilling.
Yeah, 10 ortegs to a shilling, 10 shillings to a thaler.
I am retroactively changing some money by buying pints in a interesting and careful manner at the pub.
Sure.
And I will give you kind of 10 shillings to the barman for the pleasure of it. But yeah, I'll just I will accost a goblin, and I'll just go. Where are the missionaries?
The goblin, who was just kind of minding his own business, sort of seemed to be trying to whittle some kind of tool out of a sharpened stick, kind of looks up at you, and kind of looks up and down and says, "Why? Who's asking?"
A shilling?
His eyes go kind of like saucer-sized. Can you give me, please? It's probably going to be pretty easy here. A persuasive roll at... Oh God. Let's say +6.
Oh, nice. 13 or less. Oh God. Hang on. Phone app problems. Oh, 14. Alas.
His eyes go white. He's not said no, but he's looking very wary, you know? And he kind of goes, who wants to know?
Just some travelers passing through. We've got some food donations.
Show me.
I'll show him one of my trail packs and not kind of imply that the other bags I'm carrying are probably also filled with food.
Okay. What does your trail pack look like, though? Does it look like food you donate to or is it like, you know, just kind of the Symbaroum equivalent of a cereal bar?
I mean, it's not kind of grains and stuff that you'd give to a working kitchen, but it's definitely like.
Okay. Well, in that case, give me a flat persuasive roll.
Yes. Needed 7, got a 2.
Okay. He kind of goes, okay. Okay, and kind of reaches out for the shilling.
Yeah, I'll give him the shilling.
Just walk about 3 minutes in that direction. You can't miss it. They've got big tables.
Thanks. Have a good day.
He kind of doesn't answer you. He's just kind of staring down at the coin in his palm and then kind of like feverishly looks to either side and scrabbles away in the mud into a nearby tent.
You said you didn't want to draw attention to us, Theo.
Yeah, look, we also made it very clear to Marvello that if he wanted a stealth operation, he shouldn't have asked us. There's a limit to what we can do.
We need to be stealthy enough to be able to make it back to the Black Square and hole up there until Marvello comes, though.
I know, but I also really like the idea of getting Sarvola's group on side.
They are probably the closest things that we have to friends in the garbage heap.
Yeah. And Arendar, I am spending your money here, so you speak up, but I think this serves all our purposes. Your philanthropy and our, I don't know, machinations.
I think I'd like to get a measure of the churchmen first before all of it is handed over. But
oh yeah, I'll tell you
I
what,
know.
you do the talking. I'm getting a bit nervous.
So, about 3 minutes later, you emerge into the same area I just described to Ascarai, with the large trestle tables over on one side. Ascarai, you see your companions kind of emerge into the area and kind of look around in a not terribly subtle kind of a way.
Presumably fail to recognize him.
That's a good question. I think you weren't trying to look like anyone specific or anything, were you? Just like kind of trying to let's have fun with this.
Last time I saw him, he was wearing a mask and the robes of
let's have fun with this. What's
guy.
your discreet, Ascarai?
13.
Okay. Arin, Theo, and Alindra, why don't you roll vigilance at -5, please?
Oof.
Okay, so I need a 1. I do not get a 1.
Theo, you recognize, you're kind of, your eyes are just passing across this open area of rough mud and tables and hungry people, and you spot a changeling stood kind of on the other side of the road, just kind of watching people, who seems to be looking at you in an oddly significant way, and then you kind of blink and realize it's Ascarai. Just his features kind of seemingly shifted around under his skin. But you're pretty sure that's Ascarai. You recognize his clothing as well to a certain degree.
Okay, I see Ascarai.
And the bow, right? I guess.
Yeah, and the fact he's probably one of the most tooled out changelings I've seen. I've seen Ascarai. Do you two want to go and talk to the priests, and I will catch up with him?
Sure.
Okay.
Where is he?
He's in the crowd. He's doing a good job. I'll pass my food bags over to Alindra, I think, and I will, in my most nonchalant manner possible, kind of make my way across the thing, not to where Ascarai is, but to somewhere discreet nearby, so Ascarai can peel off and come and chat to me.
Yeah, I think I'd give Stia the old glance towards an alleyway, let's go over there.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's have Steo and Ascarai first. Yeah, you can slip between kind of like a couple of tents and have a more private conversation in there. So go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you made it. There hasn't been plain sailing for me. I think someone spotted me changing into their robes, but I did find a fairly large tent that seemed to have some cultists in it. And there's cultists all around, but
yeah, it's going to be a hard job fighting the hierarchy. So we went for a quick lunch and then discovered that there is animosity. You weren't in the inn, were you? We sent you away before the inn. Yeah, so we discovered there's some animosity, or at least the potential for animosity between the Savola's gang, because there's no Church of Prius here. These are all Savola's lads.
They're Savola's.
Yeah,
interesting.
But there's animosity between them and the Crimson Cloaks, and indeed the Red Eye. So we're kind of, given that Arendar came with thrice his own weight in food, we're going to try and do a little bit of tactical bribery. So that's what they're over there doing now.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, even the guard in Thistlehold don't really like Savola's lot, as we saw from the fire. So it doesn't surprise me that what passes for guards here don't like them either.
Yeah, I think Alindra, she said it best. Probably the closest things we have here to friends. Anyway, I hope we'll be able to needle them for information on where these Red Eye people hang out, and then I suppose we do one last recce, and then head back to the square and await for the cavalry.
Okay, I'll come with you for now. Maybe we split up again later.
Yeah, I'd say we'll just hang back for the minute because I want to try and avoid any more eyes than needs be.
Okay, sounds good.
So back over by the missionaries and the tables, yeah, Aaron and Alindra. These tables are kind of swamped with individuals, but there are kind of gaps to the side where the actual missionaries are kind of moving in and out, and you can definitely kind of approach there and try and get the attention of one of them as they're desperately trying to keep cooking and keep handing out this soup as fast as possible.
Can I try and figure out if anyone has any kind of seniority, like if there's a head cook or like a kitchen manager or something?
There does seem to be one woman of middle years who is sort of seems to be handing the orders out, yes, and kind of like telling someone to put some more on, and that's those aren't enough carrots and various things like this.
Could I try and get her attention? Is there any chance? Or
yeah, absolutely, you can try. You know what? I'll give you persuasive, and I know Mike isn't with us, but I think he'll be with you two. So you can take a +2 for having another Theurg with you.
okay, yeah. Well, that one. So I'm aiming for a 13. I rolled a 10.
Okay. Yeah, you manage to kind of get her eye, and she kind of wrinkles her brow and steps over and kind of looks over at Anton and kind of looks him up and down and says, "You're not here to cause us any trouble, are you?"
No, quite the opposite. We are here to help, hopefully in more than one way. And I'll flip open one of the saddlebags that I'm carrying.
Oh. Is this from someone? Is this from him? Is
No.
this from the father?
No, sadly not. It's from me, but I'm not sure
from
I should.
Thistlehold?
Yes.
Have you heard any word of him?
I'm afraid not. Which
see.
could be good. We haven't had anything bad.
Well, this is a generous gift from yourself.
Yes.
Very well. If you wouldn't mind carrying it back here and piling it by the other food. The other food is not a particularly impressive. It's sacks of turnips and carrots and potatoes and stuff.
I'll gesture to one of them and say, "This one also has soap and some rags in, if that can be of use."
It can be. I'm afraid it may be more of use to us keeping our hands clean. But thank you. Please put it down. Is that we are not used to kind-hearted gifts here. Is there something you wish in return?
Not in return. This is given unconditionally. But I would like to ask for help on an unrelated matter.
I see. She kind of glances over at Alindra, who's, you don't look into... You do still look like a Templar to someone who's not familiar with how well-kept Templars have to keep their gear, And she kind of looks you up and down and says, "And you're sure you're not from the temple?"
We are sure.
I'll kind of sort of flap the kind of ragged tabard and just be like, "You are not quite Church of Prios. I am not quite Church of Prios. We are friends here."
All right. Well, as long as what I have to offer you doesn't compromise my work for Father Savhola or Prios above, then I will gladly help. What do you wish to? What do you wish?
We were hoping for some information about the camp. Particularly, I'll give a glance around to see if anyone is listening. Like, we're still
You
in the
can't
middle
really
of
be
something
heard back
private.
here. There's like the hubbub of the crowd, and the actual kitchen backs up onto like basically they've got large kind of wooden boards and just like banged them into the mud. So there's a bit of a shelter with a like material strung over it, so you're kind of, you know, sheltered a bit from the elements. So no one can really. The only people who could eavesdrop on you would be the novices and priests who are handing out the food.
Okay. We are here to investigate the Red Eyes, and we were wondering if there are any problems with them and yourselves, or if there is anything you can tell us about them, where they're
see.
based, who may be leading them.
I thought this time might come. Not the temple, then. The guard.
Is that a problem?
As long as whatever you're doing doesn't trample over my novices and my kitchen.
We hope it won't.
And as long as you
Particularly if...
stop. I do not want the people here to suffer more than they already have. And make no mistake, what the Red Eyes speak of, I am not comfortable with. It is corruption, but they have suffered too. You must understand that.
I believe that.
They turn to this thing out of desperation and ignorance. Oh,
Ragamar?
Prius, help me. They follow one they call the Red Eye. His real name is Gallimar. At least that's the name he gave himself when he arrived in the camp. Ragamar, I do not know what. She is something they venerate. That is all I know. But Gallimar, he is real. He's a man who has suffered physical torment by the look of him. He has a hunched back, reddened eyes. He is furious, fanatical protector of whatever they venerate. And he has gathered the others to him.
Do you think that it may be possible to find some kind of redemption for the cult if Gallimar was removed from the picture?
I would like to believe that some redemption can be found for Gallimar. I've spoken to him myself. I don't know.
I think you have some understanding about what's going to happen here. Now, if we want to limit collateral, we need to be able to point as precisely as possible to where the efforts will be focused. If that's one individual, I would consider that a very good day. If that is one small part of this area, I would consider that a pretty good day. What we're trying to avoid here is the whole garbage heap being rolled over. We don't want that. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. This is why we're asking you.
If it will prevent a massacre, I will tell you where Gallimar is.
That would be very much appreciated.
Though I have to believe that anyone can be saved with the light of Prios. She kind of clutches kind of a Prios's amulet at her neck. The far edge of the garbage heap at the east. There's a large tent. You can't miss it. Red Eye gathered all around it. That is where Gallimar makes his home, where the Red Eye congregate They will fight you, you know, to the death.
Is there no opportunity to talk to them? No chance to parley?
I'm sure you can talk to them, unless they have some grievance against you. They do not wander the pathways of Blackmoor, killing and looting or causing violence. They clearly have their beliefs, and I do not think they are decent. In a way, us and the Red Eye want the same thing for the inhabitants of the people here. A chance.
You just have very different ideas about what constitutes salvation.
Perhaps so.
I can understand that.
Look, I need to start my work again. She leans forward and kind of puts a hand on Aaron's arm. Please, do not. These people have suffered enough.
I know.
She takes her hand off your arm and turns and goes back to her work.
Well, wait.
And
will you do one last favor? And I pick up what was the smallest of the bags and say, this is full of sweets. When I was young, the Queen's agents would ride through and hand these out to the children. I don't think they do that at Blackmoor.
She kind of reaches out and takes the bag and opens it up, and I believe it's like mainly sugar cubes and kind of very simplistic sweet treats. She glances down in it and looks up and says, Indaros?
Yes.
Then you know what it's like.
Yes.
She steps forward and kind of reaches out and traces the son of Prios on your brow and says, may his light shine your way. And
Thank you.
Turns away, like clearly distressed with the kind of conflict of what she has felt she has to do. And you know what? We normally have a cliffhanger, but I think that's a bit of an emotional gut punch. So I think that's a good place to end the first stream of 2022. I nearly said 2012. So there we go. If you've got any comments or questions, please sling them in the chat, folks, and we will get to them just after I do a wee bit of promo. So links all below. There's links to our YouTube and our Twitch. You're watching on one. Please check out the other. There are also links to our social media, to our Discord and Patreon. Please join us on those. We run 3 streams a week normally, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Sorry, this is going terribly. Monday returns next week. That's Johnny's Monday crew with Shadows of Esterin. Wednesday is Symbaroum, and Thursday, which is tomorrow, will be World of Darkness anthology series, Cincinnati Chronicles. We're currently running through Wheel for the Apocalypse. Come join us. It'll be a lot of fluffy eco-warrior fun. All of those start at 8 o'clock p.m. GMT. We also run one-shots on the first weekend of every month. The next one of which is this Saturday and will be Cyberpunk 2020, run by Sam. It's his first ever GMing on the channel, so that'll be really nice. So that's Saturday the 8th at 3 p.m. GMT. Come join us for Cyberpunk 2020. If you want to watch any of our previous campaigns or one-shots or anything, it's all on YouTube. There's thousands of hours, probably maybe, of content there now. Yes. In addition, thank you to the Your for the follow, and we had some sub madness near the start of the stream. So thank you to. Okay, we had a bunch of resubscribes. Painful DM, thank you so much. John and Steve, thank you so much. Thank you again, Chris, for his 5 community sub gifts. Thanks to Steve for the cheer. We had a big old hype train happening. So thank you to everyone for that New Year furore at the start of the stream. Have we got any questions or comments of the stream that we want to throw up? Or anything? I don't think we've got anything immediately recent to throw up. If anyone can identify anything else. Yes, Mike had to hop off partway through the stream. Apologies, he's fine. Malice, hello.
The response to Sam's 20.
He's got the red eye cloak tucked into his belt and doesn't realize it's showing off his I'm a hero badge. Are these heroes?
Someone stuck the poster.
I think they have to give back their hero badges after their summary execution of a prisoner and considering doing it to another one.
Elindra never earned any hero badge.
No, this is the different flavor that Elindra is bringing to the party.
She's a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, what's a bit of war crimes between friends?
Well, you said it wasn't a war, so
it's
a regular old crime. Just a regular old crime.
Regular crime.
You know it's the phrase about if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have a drawn sword, there seem to be very simple answers to problems.
Like a sword receptacle.
I think I do owe the campaign a little bit more of reminding everyone that Steo is someone who has been through absolute nuts and is
for Steo,
a good person.
Cultists should die, according to Steo. He's lived through what is essentially the apocalypse of a civilization via cultists and corrupt sorcerers, and absolutely, Steo would view, if it's a cult, it needs to go.
I do think
absolutely.
I do think the world of Symbaroum is maybe. I think if the party is too good, it almost doesn't fit with Symbaroum as a setting.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, it just felt like an escalation. That was all.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
But
I was not expecting.
I like to think of it as an interrogation technique.
I mean,
it's kind of like
a failed one.
I was about to do exactly the same thing, but the other way around. But look.
You were going to kill one of us?
Yeah, exactly. And that would get the goblins to talk.
That would get Anton to talk. Finally. Cool. All right. I don't think we have many more comments or questions, folks. So thank you for joining us for the first stream of 2022 here on Telling Tales. Join us again tomorrow. We've got another stream then, and on Saturday, then Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday and Thursday. We're streaming all the time. It never ends. Thank you, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.